Chapter 1, The French Revolution, MCQs, short question answers and long question answers from class 9, subject Social Science, History, book India and the Contemporary World 1. Question 1. Who was the King of France at the time of the French Revolution? Answer C. Louis XVI. Explanation. Louis XVI became the King of France in 1774 and ruled when the revolution began. Question 2. French society was divided into how many estates? Answer B. 3. Explanation. French society was divided into the first estate, second estate and third estate. Question 3. Which estate paid most of the taxes in France? Answer C. Third estate. Explanation. The third estate had to pay taxes while the clergy and nobility enjoyed special privileges. Question 4. Which group belonged to the first estate? Answer C. Clergy. Explanation. The first estate consisted of the clergy or church officials. Question 5. Which group belonged to the second estate? Answer A. Nobility. Explanation. The second estate included nobles and aristocrats. Question 6. Which tax was paid directly to the estate? Answer B. Tile. Explanation. Tile was a direct tax paid to the estate. Question 7. What was tithe? Answer C. Tax paid to church. Explanation. Tithe was a church tax, usually 1/10 of agricultural produce. Question 8. What was the main cause of subsistence crisis in France? Answer C. Rise in food prices and shortage of grains. Explanation. Poor harvest, rising bread prices and shortage of food led to subsistence crisis. Question 9. Which food item was the staple diet of the majority in France? Answer B. Bread. Explanation. Bread was the main food of most people in France. Question 10. Which class became prosperous and started demanding an end to privileges? Answer C. Middle class. Explanation. The educated middle class wanted equality and an end to privileges by birth. Question 11. Who wrote the social contract? Answer B. Rousseau. Explanation. Rousseau said that government should be based on a social contract between people and their representatives. Question 12. Who proposed a division of power among legislature, executive and judiciary? Answer Montesquieu. Explanation. Montesquieu supported separation of powers in government. Question 13. On what date was the Bastille stormed? Answer B. 14 July 1789. Explanation. The storming of the Bastille became a symbol of the beginning of the revolution. Question 14. Why was the Bastille hated by people? Answer C. It stood for the despotic power of the king. Explanation. Bastille represented royal tyranny and oppression. Question 15. What was the Estates General? Answer B. A political body with representatives of the three estates. Explanation. The king called the Estates General to approve new taxes. Question 16. What did the third estate demand in the Estates General? Answer C. Voting by each member. Explanation. The third estate wanted one member, one vote instead of one estate, and one vote. Question 17. Where did the members of the third estate take the oath to draft a constitution? Answer B. Tennis court. Explanation. This is called the tennis court oath. Question 18. Who were the leaders of the National Assembly? Answer B. Mirabeau and Abbe Sieyès. Explanation. They guided the third estate in forming the National Assembly. Question 19. What did the National Assembly do on the night of 4th August 1789? Answer B. Abolished feudal privileges. Explanation. The assembly ended feudal dues and privileges of nobles and clergy. Question 20. France became a constitutional monarchy in Answer C. 1791. Explanation. The Constitution of 1791 limited the powers of the king. Question 21. Who were called active citizens? Answer B. Men above 25 years who paid taxes. Explanation. Only such men had the right to vote under the Constitution of 1791. Question 22. Which document declared rights such as liberty and equality? Answer B. Declaration of the Rights of Man and Citizen. Explanation. This document announced natural and inalienable rights. Question 23. Which political club became most successful in France? Answer B. Jacobins. Explanation. The Jacobin Club was the most powerful political club during the Revolution. Question 24. Who was the leader of the Jacobins? Answer B. Robespierre. Explanation. Maximilien Robespierre led the Jacobins. Question 25. What does the term sans culottes mean? Answer B. Men without knee breeches. Explanation. They were common people who wore long trousers instead of knee breeches. Question 26. When was monarchy abolished and France declared a republic? Answer D. 1792. Explanation. On 21 September 1792, monarchy was abolished and France became a republic. Question 27. Who was executed on charges of treason? Answer B. Louis XVI. Explanation. Louis XVI was found guilty of treason and executed in 1793. Question 28. The period from 1793 to 1794 is known as Answer C. Reign of Terror. Explanation. Robespierre followed harsh policies during this period. Question 29. Which machine was used for execution during the Reign of Terror? Answer B. Guillotine. Explanation. Guillotine was used to behead people declared guilty. Question 30. Who rose as a military dictator after the fall of the Directory? Answer C. Napoleon Bonaparte. Explanation. Political instability helped Napoleon rise to power. Next, short question answers. Question 1. What was the old regime? Answer. The old regime refers to the society and institutions of France before 1789, based on monarchy, feudal privileges and division into three estates. Question 2. Name the three estates of French society. Answer. The three estates were first estate clergy, second estate nobility, third estate common people. Question 3. Why was the third estate unhappy? Answer. The third estate was unhappy because it paid all taxes, had no special privileges and suffered from poverty and hunger. Question 4. What was subsistence crisis? Answer. Subsistence crisis was an extreme situation in which basic means of livelihood were endangered due to rising food prices and shortage of grains. Question 5. Why did Louis XVI call the Estates General? Answer. Louis XVI called the Estates General to pass proposals for new taxes because the French treasury was empty. Question 6. What was the tennis court oath? Answer. The tennis court oath was the pledge taken by the members of the Third Estate not to disperse until they had drafted a constitution for France. Question 7. Why did the people storm the Bastille? Answer. People stormed the Bastille because it symbolized the king's despotic power and they wanted arms and ammunition. Question 8. What was the importance of 4th August 1789? Answer. On this day, the National Assembly abolished feudal privileges and dues. Question 9. What was the main aim of the Constitution of 1791? Answer. Its main aim was to limit the powers of the monarch and establish constitutional monarchy. Question 10. Who were passive citizens? Answer. Passive citizens were those who had no voting rights, including women and poor men. Question 11. What is meant by republic? Answer. A republic is a form of government in which the people elect the government and there is no hereditary monarchy. Question 12. Who were the Jacobins? Answer. The Jacobins were members of a powerful political club in France. They mostly belonged to less prosperous sections of society. Question 13. Who was Olympe de Gouges? Answer. Olympe de Gouges was a revolutionary woman who demanded equal rights for women and wrote the Declaration of the Rights of Woman and Citizen. Question 14. When was slavery abolished in French colonies? Answer. Slavery was abolished in French colonies in 1794, though Napoleon later reintroduced it. Question 15. Mention any two legacies of the French Revolution. Answer. Two legacies of the French Revolution are liberty and equality before law. Next, long question answers. Question 1. Describe the social conditions in France before the Revolution. Answer. Before the Revolution, French society was divided into three estates. The first estate consisted of clergy, the second estate of nobility, and the third estate of common people such as peasants, workers, artisans, lawyers, and merchants. The first two estates enjoyed privileges by birth and did not pay taxes. The third estate had to pay all taxes and also suffered from feudal dues. This unequal system created great resentment among the common people. Question 2. Explain the economic causes of the French Revolution. Answer. France faced a serious economic crisis before the revolution. The treasury was empty because of long years of war, support to the American War of Independence, and the extravagant court of Versailles. To meet expenses, the state increased taxes. However, only the third estate paid taxes. At the same time, population increased, food grain production did not keep pace, and bread prices rose sharply. Poor harvests and unemployment made the lives of common people miserable. These economic problems led to anger and unrest. Question 3. Explain the role of philosophers in the French Revolution. Answer. Philosophers played an important role in shaping revolutionary ideas. John Locke opposed the divine and absolute rights of kings. Rousseau proposed that government should be based on a social contract between people and their representatives. Montesquieu suggested division of power among legislature, executive, and judiciary. Their ideas spread through books, newspapers, salons, and coffee houses. These ideas inspired people to demand liberty, equality, and justice. Question 4. Describe the events that led to the outbreak of the French Revolution. Answer. Louis XVI called the Estates General in 1789 to approve new taxes. The Third Estate demanded voting by each member, but the king rejected this demand. In protest, the Third Estate formed the National Assembly and took the tennis court oath to draft a constitution. Meanwhile, food shortages and fear of royal troops created unrest in Paris. On 14 July 1789, angry people stormed the Bastille. In the countryside, peasants attacked the houses of nobles. These events marked the beginning of the French Revolution. Question 5. Explain the features of the Constitution of 1791. Answer. The Constitution of 1791 limited the powers of the king and made France a constitutional monarchy. Power was divided among the legislature, executive, and judiciary. The National Assembly got the power to make laws. Citizens voted indirectly through electors. However, not all citizens got voting rights. Only men above 25 years who paid taxes were called active citizens and could vote. Women and poor men were treated as passive citizens. The Constitution also accepted rights such as equality before law and freedom of speech. Question 6. Why was the Reign of Terror introduced? What were its effects? Answer. The Reign of Terror lasted from 1793 to 1794 under Robespierre. It was introduced to crush the enemies of the Republic and protect the revolution. Robespierre followed strict control and punishment. Suspected enemies were arrested, tried, and often executed by guillotine. The government fixed prices and wages, rationed bread and meat, and forced peasants to sell grain at fixed prices. Churches were closed and equality was stressed in speech and behavior. However, Robespierre's harsh policies created fear and anger, and finally he was arrested and executed. Question 7. Write a note on the role of women in the French Revolution. Answer. Women actively participated in the French Revolution from the beginning. Many women of the third estate worked as seamstresses, domestic servants, and sellers in markets. They also managed their homes and stood in bread queues. Women marched to Versailles and forced the king to return to Paris. They formed political clubs and demanded equal rights, including the right to vote and hold office. Olympe de Gouges became a famous voice for women's rights. Though some laws improved women's lives, they did not get equal political rights during the revolution. Question 8. Explain the abolition of slavery in France and its colonies. Answer. French colonies in the Caribbean depended on slave labor for the production of sugar, coffee, and indigo. Slaves were brought from Africa through the triangular slave trade. During the French Revolution, questions were raised about whether the rights of man should apply to slaves too. In 1794, the convention abolished slavery in the French colonies. However, Napoleon reintroduced slavery after 10 years. It was finally abolished in French colonies in 1848. This shows that the ideals of liberty and equality were not immediately applied to all. Question 9. What were the main results and legacies of the French Revolution? Answer. The French Revolution ended absolute monarchy in France and weakened feudalism. It abolished privileges of nobles and clergy. It introduced the ideas of liberty, equality, and fraternity. The Declaration of the Rights of Man and Citizen gave importance to natural rights. The revolution inspired democratic and nationalist movements in Europe and other parts of the world. It also influenced anti-colonial struggles and the demand for equality and justice in many countries. Question 10. How did Napoleon rise to power? Answer. After the fall of Robespierre, France came under the rule of the Directory. The Directory was weak and unstable. It often clashed with the legislative councils and failed to provide stable government. This political instability created an opportunity for Napoleon Bonaparte, a successful military leader, to rise. He became popular because of his military victories and strong leadership. In 1804, he crowned himself Emperor of France. Though he was seen at first as a modernizer, later he became known as an aggressive conqueror. So friends, we have completed MCQs, short question answers and long question answers from chapter 1, the French Revolution. We have already studied notes and summary in Hindi explanation and also NCERT question answers of this chapter. You can find the link in the description and on the screen. You can support me with channel membership and super thanks. If you like the video, kindly like, hype the video and share it with your friends. Also subscribe to my channel and press the bell icon to receive new video notifications. We will meet in the next video. Thank you for watching.